Good morning, everybody. We're pleased to have so many of you with us today on our webinar for Returning to Work, Emerging Stronger. Before we get started, I just want to do a few introductions, although some of our faces will be familiar to you. So I'm Greg Guilford, I'm the CEO of HR Solutions, and we're pleased to have Stefan Wissenbach back with us today. Stefan is the founder and Chief Engagement Officer at Engagement Multiplier. We have a team Arden on the call as well, so she will be helping us with any technical questions that you may have, and I'll tell you how to do that in a second. So when we joined the webinar, everybody's on mute, so those of you familiar will know that we like to engage with you and try and have some questions come through, and we will pause throughout the webinar to ask those questions from you and to answer them. So in the GoToWebinar chat panel you should see something that looks similar to what's on the screen, which simply there'll be an option to expand to have your questions. If you post those questions in there, then I'll ask those questions out to Stefan when we have a break at the end of Stefan's presentation, and we'll answer as many of those questions as we can. As you know, we like to make these sessions as interactive as possible, so not only will we be encouraging you to ask those questions, but we also will have a couple of polls to kind of get a bit of engagement from you. So we'll have those in a second. So as I mentioned, we're fortunate to have Stefan on our webinar, and previously he worked with us on working from home and winning, and I can see some familiar names on our attendee list already. But just before we get going with Stefan, I just wanted to run a couple of those polls to see who attended those webinars previously. So just bear with me a second. I'm just going to launch the first poll. So did you attend the webinar Working from Home and Winning? It's quite simple, just yes or no. Okay, so most of you have answered, so I'm going to close that poll and just share the results. So you can see there's quite a few of you that attended previously. It's good to have you back. And the second part to that really is, have you undertaken the Working from Home and Winning on Demand survey? I'm just waiting a few moments for a few of you to respond. We're about 50%. Okay, I'm going to start to close the poll. I'm going to share those results. So you see, most of you haven't actually done the Working from Home and Winning on Demand survey. So we'll talk about how you might want to think about taking that later. But it's pleased to see that some of you who attended the previous webinar obviously did sign up and have done that survey. So we'll hopefully hear from you about how that's going a bit later in the webinar. Okay. So it's great to see so many of you have come back to hear Stefan again, who have attended our previous webinar. We obviously appreciate that some of you may still be working from home and that the return to work as normal might not have happened for you just yet, and it might still be a few weeks or months before that happens for you. However, this webinar is focused on helping you to start to think about that return to work and how to emerge stronger. As mentioned earlier, this is the second webinar that we've been fortunate to have Stefan host with us, and we're pleased to have Stefan to talk to us about his clients' experiences, as well as share some of the best practice tips and guidance that him and his organisation have collated. So I'll now pass you over to Stefan, and he will be taking over the rest of the webinar. Okay, I'll pass you over to Stefan.
Great, and thank you very much, Greg, and good morning, everybody. So great to see, so sort of 50-50 on of those that attended the Working from Home and Winning. So today I want to talk about emerging stronger, and I want to talk about the past, the present, and the future. So interesting, the three things that we have the ability right now to learn from the past, to act in the present in order to thrive in the future. And one of the things that is certain is that we don't know what the future holds. So I'm not here today to pretend that I've got any sense of what the new normal is going to look like. We do know that the old normal is not going to return, but we do have, I believe, a very significant opportunity to learn from both pre-COVID and then what's happened during this lockdown period, to gather insight and learning to then act in the present. So I've a phrase that my team, I think, are tired of hearing me say now, is that we can't predict the future, but if we can accurately learn from the past, we can confidently act in the present, and then obviously we're able to thrive in the future. And that's really what today is about. The last webinar that I shared with you was more about tactics. For those of you that haven't yet taken the Working from Home and Winning, or the free Working from Home and Winning on-demand survey, there'll be the opportunity for you to register for that after this webinar. A great way to get insight if you are, as I would imagine most of you are, still working from home with team members working from home. A really great way to tap into some of the insight and wisdom that comes from that, and find ways of also working more effectively that you'll be able to transfer into the new normal. And so I've broken down the journey in terms of the way that we are sharing insight, learning, and wisdom with clients and the businesses that we serve into sort of three stages. First of all, sort of tactics. Secondly, data, and then thirdly, strategy. Very, very important, because emerging stronger is going to be based on smart decision making. And I have said for many years that ignorance is never a good strategy. And so making the right decisions is also very easy, frankly, when you have the right data. Very, very much easier when you have the right data to make the right decisions. So if we look at the results from making the right decisions, we talk about emerging stronger. The results are that if you do emerge stronger, it's going to be because you have a connected, agile, productive, and engaged team that will enable you as a business to thrive in the new normal. And I was talking with Greg just before we came online about business and how things are going in his business and our business, and how there are going to be clearly a number of businesses that are going to be casualties as we come out of this. There's no doubt about it. There's going to be some tough times for certain businesses ahead, but there also are going to be a lot of winners. And my goal is to help you be in that camp of the winners. The process to get there, really very simple. You need the right data. As Winston Churchill said, the incontrovertible truth. I'm going to talk about that. You need to focus on fundamentals. Those are purpose, productivity, and performance. We're going to talk about those today. And then that's going to enable you to arrive at the right outcomes. You can't get there by skipping the first 2 points. And the right outcomes will enable you to overcome challenges, design solutions, and capture opportunities. Let's just look a bit about the evidence where we are now. As I said earlier, the world's changed. And to survive and thrive in a post-COVID world, so must you, not only as businesses, but also us as individuals. I think the way that we interact, the way we connect, we need to rethink a number of things. Business as normal simply is not coming back. I've been looking at a lot of data. There's a lot of misleading data out there, so it's important to sift through. We've been doing a lot of sifting. Some great stuff with the Harvard Business Review and some studies I've been reading recently. It's interesting that looking at how organizations are responding to the coronavirus pandemic, 52% of business leaders are talking about the fact that their workers are more productive, and more than 2/3 of those organisations and leaders saying that remote working is going to be a future for the business. So this links back to our sort of working from home and winning focus last webinar. Recently, Kantar did a survey. Only 19% of the employees that respond said that they prefer to be in the office, which is interesting, especially on lovely sunny days like today. So there we go. And 41% of employees now, Gartner survey, likely to work remotely at least some of the time post COVID-19. I was just talking to a client in the US who has a huge, wonderful office in a big tower block there. They're just serving notice on their lease. They're not going to have an office in that tower block anymore. They're going to create some meeting space where there's Zoom rooms where people can meet and connect, and the rest of the time they're going to be working remotely. The future is changing. It's going to rewrite the future of business, and the winning organisations, which is the camp that I want you to be in, are going to be those that develop trust-based cultures. Really important, where honest conversations are at the forefront. A lot of businesses haven't worked with the level of transparency and honesty that they perhaps should have in the past. This is going to become critical moving forward. They will need to have leadership that engages people to work together creatively, really important. And you're going to need to elevate your operating practices to a new level. Great review, an article on the Harvard Business Schools you can look at online that captures these in more detail. Incidentally, if you'd like a copy of these slides at the end of this presentation, if you could just let Greg know, we'd be happy to share the information with you. So the questions that you need to answer, and don't be put off by the simplicity of these. It's often the simplest questions that deliver the most profound insights when you actually think carefully. So the first one is, how have you been forced to change as a business? And if you were to write that down and make a list of the things, even some of the simple things, there'll be learning and insight. How will you operate in the future? So what needs to change based on what we've learned and the new normal we're going into? And what can you also change to elevate opportunities, strengthen culture, and thrive in the new normal? So for many, many years now, I've been delivering keynote speeches, writing books, traveling around the world, talking about how you create an engaged organization. And I've developed some leading technology that enables any business anywhere in the world to measure and improve employee engagement on a systematic basis. And one of the things that we find consistently pre-COVID was that communication was one of the things that came out very early on in the process of engaging employees about how they want information and what type of information they want. Effective communication is going to be more important than ever with the new dynamic we're working with the fact that trust-based cultures are going to be essential, that remote working is going to be prevalent, and that innovation is going to be required. So communication is critical. The three fundamentals: purpose, productivity, and performance. Let me explain what I mean by those. So it's often easier to have a sort of definition. So a purpose for me is a meaningful statement that connects with employees and provides them with a why. It isn't a statement that says, we're going to get leader in X within 3 years. No one cares, really. It's about giving your employees a why for showing up. It's not written for the shareholders, it's not written for the execs, it's not written for the owners, it's written for the employees, and it gives them a why. At Engagement Multiplier, our purpose, created with our team, is unlocking hidden potential and improving the lives of owners, leaders, and employees. That's what we do, and that's what we consistently do. It's what we've done going into COVID-19, when we decided to put our purpose ahead of profit and help businesses like yours to navigate these times. And it's very easy when you have a purpose to be able to be agile and focused and align a team. I'm going to talk a little bit more about purpose in a moment because it's a critical thing to get right, especially as we come out of COVID. Productivity, systems, processes, and ways of working. So think about these as sort of more structures that enable individuals and teams to operate efficiently. I believe passionately that human beings are wonderful things, providing you give them structure and framework, but give them freedom in that structure and framework to operate. Don't make it restrictive. And then finally, performance. Critical post-COVID. creating an environment that facilitates innovation, agility, and growth. So let's talk about purpose, and let's talk about the COVID trap. This is fascinating me at the moment. We just had a conversation this morning on our morning connection meeting, where we were talking about a client who yesterday had done an engagement survey, and their engagement score had shot up by 9%. And we believe that a lot of businesses at the moment are falling into the COVID trap. COVID has united us against a common enemy, and it has become in most businesses a short-term purpose for a true engaged purpose. And so there's a calm before a storm here. You may have noticed this in your business, because we're all shoulder to shoulder. We're trying to get through COVID together, and that has created a lift. It's created a lift in engagement, and you may have experienced it in your own business. And if you're feeling that, you're actually experiencing what it's like when you have an engaged purpose, and in a non-COVID world. Willis Towers Watson did a survey recently. 84% of businesses believe employee engagement's gone up. 83% of companies believe their employee experience is better, and 90% of businesses believe that the culture has improved. So we can see these numbers they're pretty staggering. So what happens, however, when the common enemy is gone? What happens when we start to come out of this, or are perceived to be coming out of it? And the more conversations there are in the media, the more relaxing of restrictions, the minute that happens, mindset starts to move very quickly to the new future. An engaged purpose sits at the core of any engaged organization. You can't have an engaged organization without one. And when you do it, when you get it right, ownership, leaders, and employees connect with one another, and then they connect with the purpose. And then that's when the engagement energy spreads out to the outside world and impacts your customers. So here are 3 challenges for you to consider, and 3 solutions to those challenges. The first is that, what is your purpose post-COVID when the common enemy falls away? And if you don't have one now, what you really should consider doing, and we can enable you working with HR Solutions to do this completely for free, you can have your employees score and provide feedback on how connected they are to the purpose you have, if you have one, or get feedback on what they perceive your purpose is right now, to see if there's connection and unity. And then the other challenge is it relevant? The world's changed, and your business may have changed too. So you need to be prepared to update and make your purpose relevant. And now is the perfect time, because businesses are currently getting a false sense of engagement. So investing time now in connecting your team to a meaningful purpose is going to pay dividends as we emerge from this. It will certainly enable you to emerge stronger. I've seen this in thousands of organizations. It's relatively straightforward to get right. On our platform, we provide you with all the guidance and tools to do it. It's really easy, and involve your employees, and it's a very exciting exercise for anyone that's on this, that's from a HR perspective or a business ownership perspective. This is a really engaging exercise. It's it'll be a great thing to do during lockdown with team members, and it will enable you to very much come out stronger. So productivity. So we talk about systems, processes, and ways of working that enable teams and individuals to operate efficiently. Once again, very simple. What should you stop doing that you were doing pre-COVID, or you've been doing during lockdown, that you don't want to take forward into the new normal? There's an opportunity here to get rid of bad old habits or ways of working that simply weren't efficient. What should you continue doing? So things that were working before, or things that have started working during. I mean, our business is doing things very differently. I absolutely love our morning check-in meetings, where everyone shares their 3 accountabilities for the day. The meetings are wrapped up within about 15 minutes. They're very energizing. For those of you that weren't on the last webinar, we can share with you our epic meeting format, meetings that have energy, purpose, insight, and connection, and our daily roundout meetings. Now, we never used to do those pre-COVID, but we will carry on doing them post-COVID. It's something that we've adopted during this time that we definitely want to continue, highly effective. And then from our learnings, what can we start doing? And you have an opportunity, because we know that employees rank manager and supervisor involvement in change as extremely important and very important. And we know that most businesses at the moment are rating their companies as doing very well or extremely well in responding to COVID-19. Employees, like it or not, and I know a lot of team members are not necessarily always embracing of change, they've had to go through a forced period of lots of change. People are used to change right now. So now is a golden opportunity. If you're going to start changing things and improving things to adjust as you come into the new normal, now is the time to do it. So from a productivity perspective, the challenges are that it was a challenge in a transition to work from home, and it is going to be a challenge and transition to go back. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. So you need to plan for an adjustment phase. Any smart business will do this, and make sure you understand clearly what worked and what didn't. Importantly, in the minds of your employees, pre and during working from home. Do not fall into the trap of making the assumption that you know what worked and what didn't. Get the feedback from your team members. There'll be some wonderful wisdom and insight there. I also believe that the old style management isn't going to work. I think the world has changed so much. So I think that moving into, and I would imagine for the majority of the organisations on this webinar, I'm sure you're enlightened organisations. I'm sure you currently do have leadership and management that's based on clear outcomes or accountabilities, and then a communication and structure and framework that gives some freedom and autonomy in place. It's going to be critical moving forward. And standard operating practices are going to be, many of them are going to be inadequate post-COVID. So, and this isn't just about safety. I'm not going to talk about safety today. That's really for other experts, but clearly safety in the workplace is going to be a key thing when people do start returning, and something I'm sure that you're paying attention to. But I think also establish through collaboration with team members, you know, what practices you should stop, what you should start, and what should continue. I mentioned that the working from home and winning webinar earlier, the sort of outcomes from this were how you could overcome fragmented team communication at epic meeting structure, a simple 3x3x3 formula to help your team members ensure that they're doing the right things in the right order, and that's starting your day with a focus on 3 gratitude items, picking 3 key items to achieve during the day, which my team share their 3 with each other in the morning, and then at the end of the day, in our round-out meeting, celebrating 3 wins from the day. Highly energizing start and finish to the day. Team connectivity, energy's never been higher, and we're working more efficiently than ever. And then the issue of effective time management. You probably find this, most of you will smile at this point. You're often probably finding you're spending, it's not working from home often means that we're working harder than ever. I know in my case I have to be disciplined because it's, in fact, yesterday morning I came in the office because I couldn't sleep at 3:30 in the morning, and I was still here at 5:30, and I said that's enough. But you need to be careful about managing time. And in our business, what we've done is we're encouraging team members to do 55-minute sprints. That's not going out for a 55-minute run. That's although we would encourage that too. It's doing a 55-minute head down working sprint and then taking a 5 or 10-minute break, maybe stepping outside, getting away from the desk, standing up for a bit, comparing that and contrasting that to just going at it all day. Productivity soars. We have something called a weekly energy sheet, which is a way of connecting all team members. At the end of the week, I've got a business that's got offices both sides of the pond. So our Chicago team and our London and UK teams are all very connected. We can share that with you. And then we create the working from home winning survey and a 15-page success kit for you that enables you to understand what to stop, start, and continue, and move from working reactively versus proactively. So still very much available to all attendees on this webinar. If you haven't done it yet, would highly recommend that you do. And there'll be a link at the end of this to facilitate you registering for that. To say it's completely free. We just want to be helpful and useful to you in this challenging time. If we now look at performance, so an environment that facilitates innovation, agility, and growth. So the growth companies of tomorrow. If you want to be a growth company of tomorrow, and I think we all want to be working in or on a growth company of tomorrow, this is going to be the challenge. Communication. At the moment, inadequate communication does stifle creativity, innovation, and ideation. So the solution is really very simple. We've seen this happen hundreds, if not thousands of times in businesses. Take time, if you take time to understand the team's communication requirements, which are often very different to what the leader's perception is of what they would be, and then develop simple systems to provide clarity and drive results. And as the Harvard Business Review says, that the organisations that thrive of tomorrow will have confidential and anonymous employee feedback loops, something that we provide automatically as a matter of course through our technology, and the ability to publish results and clearly detail how you're going to take action to the team. The next challenge is a lack of transparency about progress, contribution, and accountabilities, both at a business and a personal level. So something we have done for years, and it works, it's highly effective. It's not my system. It was, I learned about it through a wonderful man called Gino Wickman, who has written a brilliant book called EOS, the Entrepreneurial Operating System. It's about how to run a highly effective business, a real must read. He talks about setting clear 90-day business objectives, breaking these down by company, department, and individual, and then running the business to those. Really, really effective. And then the other challenge, and I think this exists in a lot of organisations, and if you haven't been doing a lot of innovation and you're moving into the new world where you will be doing a bit more, this is something that can build quite quickly. Team members initially might not feel confident or permitted to innovate and improve. So creating an environment where innovation and insight are celebrated and encouraged in a very structured way can really help address that and help you move forward. So as I said at the beginning, we can't predict the future, but if we can accurately, and that's very important, accurately learn from the past, we can confidently act in the present, and then we'll be able to thrive in the future, which is what we want for you. And it all comes down to understanding and having the right data, which will enable you to adopt the right strategies and employ the right tactics. And emerging stronger is going to be based on smart decision making. As we said at the beginning, ignorance is never a good strategy. You need to know what your employees are thinking and how they're feeling about things, and then making decisions becomes very easy to enable you to focus on purpose, productivity, and performance. And our Emerging Stronger program that we've created is designed to do just that. As I said at the beginning of this webinar, we decided to put purpose ahead of profit, and we created this capability completely for free. It enables you to have control and clarity over where things are at, which is going to give you confidence and capability in moving forward, as opposed to not having that and operating in some cases with procrastination, uncertainty, and in many businesses, paralysis, not knowing really what to do next, and fear of the unknown. It completely shifts that. Very simple to set up, less than 10 minutes to get you up and running, and the insight is incredible. So we've created a whole series of guides around purpose. It's very simple for your team members to participate in this program, typically done via an iPhone. You'll get very clear, or Android, very easy to access. You'll get very clear qualitative and quantitative data that's going to enable smart decision making. And what we've done, so we have our working from home and winning standalone package, and then we've created our Emerging Stronger package, which is effectively an engagement benchmark score that will enable you to understand how connected your employees are to your purpose if you have one, and provide some real clear insight and data around where engagement sits right now, and give you a clear set of dials on areas for opportunities for improvement. Great time to do this. There couldn't be a better time. And then linked to that, we've worked with some thought leaders to create a series of thought leadership driven questions that will enable you to gather insight on the important things I mentioned earlier about what worked pre-COVID, what's worked during COVID, what needs to stop, what needs to start, what needs to continue. So frankly, putting you as an owner or a leader in a business in a very strong position to understand how to have the right data to make the right decisions in moving forward. So if you're interested in registering for the free Emerging Stronger program, as I said, it's completely without obligation. I just want to stress that there's no hidden catches here. We're focusing on purpose, helping unlock hidden potential and improve the lives of owners, leaders, and employees. So there's the link there, and I believe that this will be circulated again after this webinar. And so now I think we're into Q&A time. I know there's been a number of questions coming through. Hope that's been useful. And if you have any questions, if you could please register them. I think Greg's going to take over now, and we can answer questions.
Yeah, thank you, Stefan. So there's been a couple of questions coming through. always, I should start with telling people that we will send the slides around, because that is always the most popular question, people wanting copies of the slides. So we have recorded it, and we will be sending the slides around afterwards. And the links that Stefan's referred to as well, we'll have those on the email for you as well. So you don't have to be scribbling them down quickly. We'll follow that up for you. So thanks, Stefan. I've got a couple of questions for you. Obviously, we talked about the previous webinar we've done as well, and some people have been saying they missed that working from home webinar. Do you think it's still worth them watching it, because they think they're going to be returning to the office in the next couple of weeks? So should they be shifting to just emerging stronger rather than working from home and winning?
Well, simple answer, and with humility, yes, it is probably worth watching. And I think when you're watching it, you can hit a speed up key, so you don't have to listen to me for the full duration of what it normally takes. But it's quite a quick webinar, and I think it is worth taking a look at, because I do think it would be a shame not to learn from working from home. I think, it's I know that we've now been, when our team are sharing their sort of wins on our morning and evening calls, quite a lot of the time they are about conversations they've had with clients that have just been going through the data from their working from home and winning survey. So there is going to be some value in capturing that insight now whilst you can, because our Emerging Stronger package, which is probably what you'd be considering doing now as you're going to be moving into the new normal, isn't going to capture all the same insight. It's different. So what I would do if I was in your position, if you've got employees working from home, I'd quickly get the working from home and winning thing set up. I mean, you can get it set up and running in a day or so. It's very simple. Our team are here to help, so just click on the link and we can get it set up. You'll then have the data from that, and then that provides you, I think, with the perfect springboard into the next one. And also from an employee perspective, this is quite comforting. If you've got team members, people are still nervous. I mean, even if you've got the best leadership, one of the best businesses out there, people are still going to be a little bit apprehensive about what the future holds. And so if you go to them and you say, right, two things we're going to do. We're going to learn from working from home, because we think some things have worked, some things haven't. We want to take the good and get rid of the bad and the ugly. And then what we're also going to do is we're going to spend some time on what we're calling our Emerging Stronger program, to understand what you're thinking and understand how we can emerge stronger as a business. So just think about how that is perceived in the eyes of the employee. It's like, well, great, they're involved in two things. Their opinion matters, that is going to help move forward. So I would personally quickly get the insight on the working from home if you haven't already, and then you can naturally just flip into, we've got a lot of clients that are simply doing a working from home, and then 3-4 weeks later, an Emerging Stronger. And both of them take about 10 minutes for the employee, so it's not onerous. So that's what I would do.
Yeah, thanks, Stefan. So kind of following on from that, some people are saying, when is the right time to do that Emerging Stronger program? So, I mean, I guess at the moment it's hard for people to know when they're really going back. So for us as an organisation, we never really stopped working, but everyone's deployed from home, and we're probably going to allow that for the foreseeable future until this situation's calmed down. So, but I guess there will be some people who are going back to an office environment or other working environment that they might need to think about when it's the best time to deploy the next survey, Emerging Stronger.
Yeah, so I'll let you into a bit of a secret here. I misstepped on this, and I misstepped on it because I perceived about 3 weeks ago that this would be, lockdown will come to an end. We'll go into the new normal. So we started off calling this webinar Emerging Stronger from Lockdown. You'll notice that the words from lockdown have gone. And the reason that's gone is my thinking has changed quite rapidly. I think we're going to go back to it looks like we're going to go into this new normal where we'll have periods of stop-start. So there'll be some businesses that are able to start having employees return to work. There'll be some that are in different sectors where it's not practical. And then there'll be periods where perhaps we have a spike in cases of COVID, and they'll introduce more restrictions. So I think that rather than trying to play a game we can't win, I thought it would be smarter to play a game we can. And so This is why I said, well, I think what we should do, I think everyone accepts that we are slowly entering, well, we're entering a new normal. So this makes it very easy. As a business, you want to emerge stronger from this period that we're going through, and we don't know when it's going to end, but we want to emerge stronger from it. As employees, you want to work for organizations that want to emerge stronger from it. You want to be employed by an organization that's going to emerge stronger. So you'll know when the right time is. I think the right time in many businesses is now. We've gone through a period of many weeks of lockdown already. We're starting to think about what the future looks like as we start returning to work. There is talk of lockdown being eased over the next few weeks and so on. So people are starting to get ready for it. So we have a lot of clients already. In fact, we've got a lot of clients at the moment running the Emerging Stronger package. We've got an even greater number launching over the next 2 weeks. So over the next 2 weeks, as we go into June, our numbers on Emerging Stronger launches are starting to really skyrocket. So I would suggest that probably over the next 2 to 3 weeks is the ideal time to launch, because it captures that opportunity of giving employees some confidence in your leadership and your focus in building a business that emerges stronger. It enables you to tap into the wisdom. And if we do have a prolonged period of lockdown, whatever, something happens that we don't expect at the moment, at least it's going to give people a bit of a lift.
Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, as a company, we did the working from home and winning. We haven't quite taken the Emerging Stronger one yet, because we're still kind of waiting for some of the impact of the implementations that we did on the back of the feedback we had from our staff. And it is a great tool. You know, you learn stuff that you weren't expecting, really. So you know, we kind of assumed people just wanted to finish their normal working day and you know, go and see their family, but quite a few people wanted to do a bit more social stuff that as a team that we hadn't really envisaged. You know, we thought everyone would be tired of sitting in their office working from home, but they quite missed the sort of social interaction with the rest of the team, which is you can kind of manage, you know, remotely with the new technology, but yeah, I guess we're trying to make the most of it and keep our staff engaged. It's a great tool for us. We thoroughly recommend it. Some of the things that you were talking about was the COVID trap, which I haven't really heard it called that before, but I guess it is quite, it resonated with me what you were saying, basically. There will be a lot of companies that have almost tried to be visible in this kind of support that they're providing to their employees through this period of time, you know, sharing on LinkedIn and whatnot, and they might not necessarily continue it. And you know, and I think that's the key thing with some of the survey tools you have is we're relying on the company at the moment making the decision about what they think the employees want and will continue to want to have, whereas unless you collect that data and the information from the employees, you don't know really whether, you know, the Zoom call at 8:30 in the morning is actually what they want, or whether they are, you know, want to have company updates instead. So, you know, and every business is different, isn't it? So unless you run that survey, you're not going to be able to get the true sense of purpose from your team. So I think it's really important that people do engage and find out that data from their staff. I'll just have a quick look for any other questions that have come through. So I think we've covered most of them. The only other one that I was going to kind of anecdotally say is we're seeing a lot, because we do a bit of recruitment, we're seeing some of our clients who are going through that recruitment process are being asked by their candidates and applicants what they did during COVID and lockdown, because they're using that, the candidates are using that as a sense of, you know, how does that company treat their employees and how will they continue to treat their employees. So I think, you know, on the back of this, yes, you'll have your current staff that hopefully will be engaged and committed to the organisation, but you'll have a story to tell when you're talking to new candidates as well, because they will want to see, did that company look after their employees during COVID and the lockdown period. So I do think it's really important that companies do engage with their current staff and future staff as well.
Great.
Well, thank you for that. I haven't got any other questions come through, so I'm going to move forward now. So yeah, thank you once again, Stefan. So I'm sure our audience will be able to take away some ideas as to how to improve their working activities from home, and also when they emerge and come out stronger, hopefully. There's certainly a few things that we're going to take away. Again, I know we took some things away from the previous webinar as well, and I hope some of the audience that attended the last one have already taken away and implemented some of those things as well. So if there is any other questions that any of the audience have sort of when they re-watch or when they've seen the notes from the webinar, then you can get in contact with us on the information on the screen. Probably with the inquiries email address would be the best. Then if they are directed at Stefan, we can forward those on and hopefully come back to you as well. After the webinar, you will get an email with a short survey trying to gather some feedback about the survey, as well as kind of other things we can improve on, and also future webinar content that you would be interested in as well. So watch out for that in your inbox. That email will also have the links that we talked about in terms of where to find the recording, and also how you can take the free service that Stefan's been talking about throughout the webinar. So we have been running a series of webinars throughout this lockdown period, and we do have a couple more scheduled over the next couple of weeks. So they're on the screen. So that's e-learning and the future of work, building business resilience, which we're running with Deloitte, and we've also got one in June on personal relationships at work. To make sure you get those invites, you either go to our website, or it'd be much easier if you sign up to our newsletter, which is on the screen, but that link will also be on the follow-up after this webinar as well. And then obviously we're sharing insights on the changing environment, and that particularly at the moment with the legislation around furlough, unfurloughing, etc. as well. So you'll get insights as well as the invites to upcoming webinars. As I mentioned, all of these webinars are recorded, so there's a series of webinars that you can watch on demand on our website. We'll put the link in the email for you as well. On the screen is just a couple of examples that we've done recently. That just leaves me to thank Stefan once again. Hopefully we'll do another one in maybe a couple of weeks' time, maybe, to share any more insights and maybe some of the information that's coming through with from clients that have taken the survey as well. So thank you once again. If you do have any questions, please just get in contact and we will respond as quickly as we can. So I'm going to close the webinar now, and thank you once again for your time.
Bye-bye.